I think becoming wealthy is the easiest thing in the world. Use your capital to acquire assets as opposed to liabilities. You will ultimately end up wealthy.
Assets that produce passive income.
You're correct. There you go. That's a good caveat. But the problem or the challenge is a lot of people today can't define what an asset and a liability is. A lot of people will say, hey, my car is an asset. No, it's not. My primary residence, which we'll get into, is an asset.
No, it's not.
It's definitely not.
Welcome back to the Wealth Eazy Show, where we talk all things wealth, health, and real estate. Today, I've got a really special guest. My guest today is a high school dropout who has amassed a real estate portfolio of over $12 million as a top 1% producing real estate agent in Ontario and has done over $150 million in sales in just 8 years as an agent. Please welcome to the show, Wayne Skinner.
Hey.
What's going on?
For myself, I hope it comes through. It's not too bright on the audio.
Did you want to do the twirl?
I would love to. I just don't think there's enough space. But thanks for having me. I think your story is fascinating, and I'm pleased to be here.
Amazing. Well, you know, we talk things real estate, and you're a huge producer, and you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. So you own a ton of real estate yourself.
I do.
Right? So I read some of your bio, and I've been following you for a little while, and what I want to know is, you know, you got started into real estate at a really young age, like 9 years old, because your father was a developer.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So and then he had you working in some of those houses. So tell me about that. Like, I don't know many 9-year-olds that are working in houses doing drywall and masonry and stuff like that, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, 9-year-old Italians, that's kind of what it was. We were taught from the time that we were kids that men or boys don't stay home, that a man's job is to go out there and work. And the biggest thing that we learned is that if you want to run a company, you have to know all of your numbers. And the best way to know your numbers is to do everything. There's no starting at the top. You have to know every single trade. So start at the bottom and work your way up, and you'll always be successful that way.
So your father was a developer.
He was.
And what was he? Was he developing residential homes?
Yeah. So he developed a lot of commercial. He did a lot of plazas. He got into some apartment buildings, and then he did a very, very large resort out on Lake Rousseau.
Oh, wow.
So that one. And you guys want to know the whole story?
Yeah.
Okay. So this one, you might have to cut some of it out. It gets a little dicey.
No.
So my dad was always involved in gambling. So my dad used to do a lot of work in Las Vegas. And even here, when I was in high school, he used to run casinos. Some of them were underground. Some of them were above board. Mm-hmm. That's how I learned to count so quick. But anyways, so my father was told back in the 80s that Ontario would eventually have casinos legalized. So my father knew this because he ran in political circles. So he bought a piece of property on Lake Rousseau in Muskoka, which is some of the most exclusive real estate in all of Canada. Bought this big resort, built this big resort, had Dionne Warwick and Engelbert Humperdinck ready to perform at the grand opening. Went, got all the casino tables, then went for his license, and he was told that he couldn't get it. He was told that that license was going to be given to Casino Rama. So Casino Rama got my father's casino license because the new government, I think it was Joe Clark at the time, said that he was only going to do it with First Nations or on reserves. So my dad kind of got screwed out of that. But one of the things that taught me is my dad always taught me this. The most important thing in life is to always make sure that your ambition far outweighs your talents. And I can tell you that guy's the most ambitious guy out there, probably not the most talented, because it kind of went sideways for him after that.
So when did it happen to the property? Did it just get converted into like a hotel?
It's now, it's in a hotel there now, and I can't remember the name of it. I try to stay away from it because it's a little bit painful for our family.
Okay.
But this was back in the 80s, and I know even one of the grants that he got ended up going to the guy that did Deerhurst. And I know that Deerhurst just recently sold to Peter Freed. So that's a pretty big legacy project. But my dad would have had that project for 30, 40 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you go on to DJing, and you're doing nightclubs, and I read your bio. You're doing DJing in the government. And I remember
I was there. Yeah, I DJed in the government.
When I left the bank, and I went with a brokerage. I had zero clients. Luckily for me, I was bartending at the time.
Did you bartend at government?
I bartended at the I was in the Orange Room.
I DJed the Orange Room. That was my room.
I bartended the Orange Room.
Okay, do you remember when...
And sometimes Cool House.
Okay,
on concerts.
Cool House I didn't, but I was always on the Orange Room. Do you remember when there was a ladder to go up to the DJ booth?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me going up there with a crate of records, trying to go up a ladder. Did not exactly work out very well a lot of times, but that was my spot. Me
That was crazy.
and a DJ named Jeremy Beckman that was pretty famous for, his crew was called JMK. So it was Jeremy, Mike, and now Kenny Glasgow. And Kenny Glasgow is an international DJ making millions of dollars.
Yeah, so yeah, I was bartending while I was building my book of business, and got to a point where it's like, I don't need to bartend anymore.
Yeah.
Let me just focus on, managing what I currently have and growing that. So you DJ, and then you moved to Japan and Philippines.
Yes, yeah. So I guess I got pretty decent at DJing. So I was able or afforded the opportunity to do a DJing tour through Japan. And then from Japan, I went to the Philippines. So Japan, 1.5 years, and the Philippines for 1 year. And I can tell you, the best lesson about that is I went to Japan with maybe $400 in my pocket. And at the time, it was one of the most expensive cities in the world was Tokyo. So it kind of taught me that, I don't know if it's arrogance on my part or just not believing that anything can go wrong. But that's kind of always the way that I've led my life. Like I've just led and I've said, if it makes sense, go and do it. And I kind of take emotion out of it. And for me, it made sense to go there, and I made it. So now that's why I'm not afraid to go and buy a property or buy 2 properties or buy a stock or buy anything. Because for me, as long as it makes sense, it makes sense. And I don't really have that fear of failure. So that's why even now I can tell you, my 2 daughters, there's Quinn, who's 12, Stella, who's 10. And I've told them both, well, I don't want you going to university after high school. I really don't. Each one of you guys is taking a year off. So Quinn wants to go to Italy, so now she's taking Italian lessons. And Stella wants to go to Japan, so now she's taking Japanese lessons. So after a year, if you decide that you want to come back and go to university, no problem, I'll support you. But my one criteria is that if you want my help, you have to go out there for at least 1 year, and you're going to prove to yourself that you can make it on your own and you don't need your dad.
But it was really cool because you said you went with $400 in your pocket, so that eliminates Plan B.
There is no Plan B.
There is no Plan B.
100%. That's how I live my life.
And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when they get started in a business or anything, someone goes, okay, well, if that fails, what's your Plan B?
There isn't any.
Fuck no, there is no fucking Plan B.
Exactly.
Because if I got a Plan B, then I'm not gonna put everything. I'm gonna fail. I'm like, okay, well, I can always back this up. No, there is no Plan B. Yeah. Right? Just like when Dwayne Johnson, when he came and he went to LA, he had $7 in his pocket.
Love it.
$7, and that's why his studio is called $7 Productions.
Oh no way.
Yes,
That's awesome.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't. Yeah, but even your story that you were just telling me where you made all that money as a 28-year-old and you lost it all. And my first response to you was, hey, that's amazing. Congratulations. And sometimes I say that to people and you took it well. Sometimes people don't. Because even when people I hear, oh man, I just lost my job, or I just got fired, or I just quit, or I'm just getting divorced. It's weird. My first response is always, hey man, congratulations. Because I don't think of those as negative things. I always think, man, you have an opportunity for greatness. If you're finding yourself in a position that's challenging, which a lot of people are now with the economy, that is an opportunity for greatness. So never get down on yourself. Never think negatively. Every time there is an opportunity for greatness when there's a challenging situation. And that's just kind of the way I live my life. And the same thing as you. Look at you now, man.
And you know what? And had I not lost that money, when I sold my company and I put $150,000 into a stock because of a friend of mine, my roommate, who was working for a company at the time. It's in my book in the very first chapter of how I got started. I don't know if I'd be in this business right now. Because of losing $150,000 in a stock, it taught me that I'm not going to ever let this happen to myself again without doing research. And so that led me to going and getting doing the Canadian securities course, getting securities licensed, and then through mutual friend while bartending, I got a job offer at a bank.
Of course you did.
And because of entrepreneurship and because of being licensed or having that securities license, I was able to start off as a financial advisor on the imperial side or the high net worth side with CIBC. And so for a couple of years, I really honed in and let them pay for my schooling. Then I got to a point where it's like, you know what? I realized that my biggest competitor was my employer, and I'm like, fuck this.
Yeah, you're making him money.
I'm out. And you know what? I'm gonna leave the bank and I'm going to go with a brokerage and I'm going to build my own business. And that's, where I am today.
Can I interject for a second? Because I was just at your book release, which was phenomenal, by the
Thank
way.
you.
That was pretty cool. I have to admit, that was amazing. But one of the things that you said there that really resonated with me is that you realized that when you had your clients, that you weren't making your clients as much money as you were making your boss. That is so profound because you made that decision right then and there that you're going to start to make your clients more money as opposed to your boss. And that diametric shift that you did right there has led you to the success you have now. It's so strange because I tell people all the time that I like being rich. I can tell you right now, I'm not as rich as some people. I'm richer than most. But the only way that I stay wealthy is by teaching other people to stay wealthy. The only way that I have positive energy is by giving my positive energy to somebody else. And this is the big one for me in life. The only way that I learn to love myself is by teaching other people to love themselves. I'm telling you, it's the secret of the world. So when you were saying that you were working at the government through bartending and got that job, you didn't get that job because you were bartending. You didn't get that job because you had schooling. You got that job because of one thing, because of your energy. Everything that you put out, you attracted. Everybody that you hang out with right now, I guarantee, like this is my only second time hanging out with you. I guarantee that you don't hang out with low energy or low vibration people. There's no reason to. Even when you were saying that you were in the gym, the people that are in the gym, imagine those people. Those people are making a concerted effort to make their life better. That's high vibration. They're not out there complaining about the price of gas. They're not out there complaining about how much a cell phone bill costs. And even when people come to me to talk about stuff like that, like I have some friends and they're like, hey man, do you see the price of gas? It's way up. I'm like, really? I have no idea what gas costs. I don't. Is it $2? Is it $8, $80, $9?
I think it's I don't know, I use premium. I think it's like $1.93.
Yeah, something like that.
For gas.
But let me ask you, so what are you going to say tomorrow? I'm not going to fucking use it?
You're like, hey, let me put $20 in because it's $1.93. Fuck it.
But that's the thing.
I got a rolls. I should be able to afford the gas.
Do you ever hang out with anybody that talks about gas prices?
No.
90% of the population talks about gas prices. The 10% don't. We don't care.
Hey everyone, it's John. I just wanted to thank you for being here, and I would ask that you please subscribe to the show by just clicking the subscribe button right here. I'd really appreciate it. It helps grow the show so we can get even more successful guests on the program to help you. If you're already subscribed, a huge thank you. When you subscribe, you're going to get access to the program before anybody else does. So if you would, just click subscribe right here. Thanks so much. And welcome back to the Wealth Eazy Show. And it's funny that you mentioned that because I find myself, and this is not to be arrogant or conceited in any way, but number one, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room because if I am, I need to find a bigger room or change rooms. Number two, I never want to be the richest person in the room. I want to be the poorest person in the room because I surround myself with millionaires and billionaires because I'm going to learn something from them. And they're the ones I get motivated that elevates me, right? So those are the things that I work around with. And, I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of really close circles. And you know what? I don't judge them based on what they own. I judge them based on the person that they are.
Or what they're going to be.
Right. And what their values are. Right.
But you know what's amazing? And sorry, again, I have to apologize. I have a way of cutting people off. If I speak over top of you, let me know. But it's amazing when you touched on those two words that I hear. I hear conceited and I hear arrogance. And I hear that about myself all the time. And it's weird. And this is what I mean. I don't know if it's delusional on my part, but I've never considered that to be an insult to me. I am arrogant and I am conceited and I'm egotistical. You know why? I designed my life to be like this. If I told you at 8 years old that you're going to have 2 amazing, healthy kids, travel around the world, be able to buy anything you want without having to look at the price, have great houses, have great money, great assets, that's a designed life. Have a job that has esteem to it. Have a job that you're helping people. Never having to look at a price list when you go to a restaurant. Not caring about the cost of a cell phone. That is a dream life. So I designed it that way. So yeah, I'm arrogant. Yeah, I'm conceited. And yeah, I'm egotistical. The fact that people think that that's an insult means they're living their life wrong. They're living their life with limited beliefs. Dude, the chance that you are here right now is an absolute mathematical improbability.
Oh, it's a miracle.
Imagine. So your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather had to meet your great-great-great-great-great-grandmother on the very day And then your great-great-great-grandfather had to make sure that he didn't say anything obnoxious to your great-great-great-great-grandmother. And then that had to happen. And then they had to avoid plagues, and they had to avoid wars, and they had to avoid political uprising, whatever. The fact that you are here, I'm telling you right now, it is an absolute, if you worked out on the mathematics, it's an improbability. So you think right now you were put on this earth to live a fucking average life, to drive an average car, to have an average partner, to eat average food, listen to average music? You did not. You were put on this earth as a freaking miracle. So you're doing yourself a disservice if you live an average life. Now, how you define average life, that's up to you. Some people like other things, but come on, man. I am arrogant. I'm conceited. I have no problem with that.
I believe that every person was put on this earth and has a purpose.
Yep.
But I think a lot of people, they give up on their purpose, or they give up on their dream, or
Yes.
they don't know they don't know their why.
Yes.
Number one, you got to know your why.
You do. Absolutely.
Number two, I think that when people get dreams, I think they're afraid to project it or say it out loud because I think the first people that are going to shoot you down is your family.
Friends and family. Absolutely.
Friends and family go,
Yep.
oh, I don't do that. It's been done before and it failed. Oh, you don't have the smarts to do it and this and that. So I think a lot of people, they won't even project it. So they say, fuck it. I'm not gonna start my dream because I'm worried about what other people say. Fuck what other people say.
Yeah.
Follow your dreams. You have a purpose.
You do.
Everyone has a purpose.
Dude.
But I don't think people realize what their purpose is, and no one knows their why. And if you're listening, understand what your why is. And when you know your why, okay, you know your why. My why is my son.
Your son. I told you right before you even said it. Your son.
My son.
Me
That's
too.
my why.
Yep, exactly.
Number two, I love to serve people.
100%.
And you know what's funny? You can call it luck, but isn't it interesting? The more people I serve, the luckier I get.
100%. It's the same thing that I was saying earlier. Like the more people that you make wealthy, the wealthier you become.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing because I even said right before you said that, I didn't even interject because I'm not the most polite guy and I speak over people.
Okay.
But I met your boy. He's an awesome kid, and I knew it right away. I'm going to say his why is his son, and it's so weird. Even what you were touching on there as well. That so many people have that limited belief or they get defeated right away. And I tell people all the time, it's almost like that Tom Vu commercial. Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that late night commercial? We're kind of the same age where he sold all that real estate, turned out to be a scam. But he said, the people that are going to hold you back are going to be your friends and your family first. And believe me, they're not malicious when they're saying that. They love you. They're trying to protect you. They don't think that the way that you do. So if you don't think like them, believe me, start to hang out with people that think like you. And the funny thing is every time I speak about things like this, people tell me, oh, Wayne, none of my friends think like that. That's because you haven't given or you haven't vocalized what your thoughts are. I kind of say this. I say it's like a pack of bubble gum. Right now in this room, I don't know who wants bubble gum. I can go out to that bus stop right there. I have no idea who wants bubble gum until I take out that pack of bubble gum. Once I take out that pack of bubble gum, you know what happens? People find me. The people that want bubble gum will come to me. Mm-hmm. That's the same concept. It's weird that we are taught from the time that we're young not to talk about politics, not to talk about money, and not to talk about religion. The politics and religion thing I can understand. But the weird thing is when people tell me it's rude to talk about money. I don't think it's rude.
It's
so
not
let me ask
rude.
you right now. So do you cook at all? Do you bake?
A little bit here and there.
Okay, so right now, we just met, but I consider you to be a friend. I consider you to be a friend. If you right now knew how to make the best apple pie in the world, and you didn't tell me that recipe, I think you're being a bad friend, no?
Yeah, because I'm hiding it from you.
Yeah, so me, I don't know how to make apple pie. I'm the worst cook around, but I know how to make money. So if I'm not sharing how I make money or my success with you, I'm being a bad friend. So yeah, I talk about money all the time to the point where some people may even get turned off. But the people that get turned off or repelled, that's a blessing for me. Because to tell you the truth, if you don't think the way that I think, I don't want to have to drag you.
We don't need you in the circle.
No, I don't.
We want to be surrounded by like-minded people,
Absolutely.
right? Because you say, listen, you know the old saying, if you're hanging around 5 broke people, you're probably the 6th broke. If you're hanging around 5 blue collar
100%.
or people without vision, you're going to be the person without vision too.
100%. And that's why it's funny. So me and you, like, I'm not sure if people can tell because we have a pretty good rapport. This is the second time we've met in person.
And the
I
first
can
time
already tell you-
we met was Sunday at my book launch, and we met for 5 minutes.
Not even 5. It's like 2 minutes. I'm like, hey, how are
can
you?
I-
Sign it up.
can you sign my
Gotta
book?
go. Yeah. But isn't that amazing? Like,
But
right
we've
now,
been following each other. We've been talking.
but our energy's great.
Yeah, we've been
like,
talking.
You're a person that, and I was even going to tell you, I told Rhoda earlier today, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, this guy, me and him have to do some business. I have to let this guy start to take care of our finances. This guy knows what he's talking about. I haven't seen any of your pitches, but I just know by your energy that I want to be in the John Durbano or McGuire business.
Yeah.
Whatever business that is. And that's the exact same reason why you got that job when you were bartending at government. People see you, man. And they see beyond you. They see your energy, and they see what you put out into the universe and what you want.
It's attractive.
It's a law of attraction.
It's a law of attraction, and I believe that what you put out in the universe,
back, man.
you're going to get back. If
100%.
you're walking, if you're walking around with a frown on your face, you're going to be miserable.
Absolutely.
Even if you're miserable, if you put a smile on your face, amazing things happen.
Yeah, you're right.
Your attitude just changes. Even if you're pissed off, walk around with a smile on your face and watch your mood change.
Yeah. You know what's amazing? So I have to say, I usually don't get nervous, but for some reason I was a little nervous here.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know if it's just the heat or whatever, but I remember this trick from DJing, and that was, if you're ever nervous, smile.
Yeah.
And it tricks your brain into thinking you're not nervous, but you're excited. So that even when you're going to speak in front of people, if you're a little bit nervous about it, or if you're going to go in and get a sale done or whatever, if you're a little bit nervous, put a smile on your face, and your body literally gets tricked. Your mind tricks your body into not being nervous, but to being excited. Dude, the world is so exciting. Like, imagine out that door, everything that's out there. All the people that you're going to meet, all the stories you're going to hear, all the cars you're going to be able to drive, all the watches you're going to be able to wear, all the food you're going to be able to taste, the music you're going to, the music you're going to taste, the music you're going to hear. There's so much exciting things out there. So many people just get into this whole miserable thing where they just want to complain and talk about how bad it is. To be honest, when it comes to politics, sometimes I go down a little bit of a negative hole and I have to snap out of it. But man, I have to tell you, like, there's people out there that think exactly like you. Hang around them. And that's what I tell my daughters all the time. If someone doesn't like you, that's none of your business, the way somebody thinks about you. If someone doesn't make you feel good about yourself, go and find someone that does make you feel good about yourself. They're out there.
What's your definition of rich?
Oh, so we were talking about this earlier, and I really like this. So my definition of wealth, and I can't remember, I'd like to take credit for it. I just don't know where I heard it. I think I was probably like 17 years old, and when I dropped out of school, I went into all of these self-help, any sort of conference, any self-help conference, whether it was through, believe it or not, Amway, so Robert Kiyosaki, Dale Carnegie, Tony Robbins, whatever it was. I can't remember where I heard this line, but the line was powerful and stuck with me. How long can you sustain your existing lifestyle should your primary source of income expire tomorrow? Mm-hmm. That means if you get fired from your job, can you live the same way? And how long you can live that way, that's the definition of wealth. And that's what you should be setting up your life. And I'm telling you, it's not that hard. When people ask me, how do you become wealthy? I think becoming wealthy is the easiest thing in the world. Use your capital to acquire assets as opposed to liabilities. You will ultimately end up wealthy.
Assets that produce passive income.
You're correct. There you go. That's a good caveat. But the problem or the challenge is a lot of people today can't define what an asset and a liability is. A lot of people will say, hey, my car is an asset. No, it's not. My primary residence, which we'll get into, is an asset.
No, it's not.
It's definitely not.
Here's my definition.
Yeah. And I'm an agent.
Okay,
it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm an agent too. I'm a
There you
broker.
go.
I'm a broker, real estate broker.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. I've been doing real estate a long time. Assets, and this is Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki,
yep.
right? Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money from your pocket.
You're exactly right.
Your principal residence. I'll bet you I can go down the street and ask 10 people, is your home, your principal, is it an asset? They'll all say yes. I'm like,
and they're all wrong.
no, it's not. It's a liability.
You're right.
Even if you had your home fully paid off,
Still liability.
it's still liability because you have
money.
you have phantom costs, right? You got taxes,
Yep.
you have maintenance,
Yes.
you've got insurance.
Yes.
Unless you're renting out the basement and
Sure.
you got positive cash flow, it is a liability.
100%.
Right? So when we talk about assets, here's my philosophy. I don't own where I sleep.
Love it. That you shouldn't.
I own real estate, but I don't own where I sleep.
Absolutely.
Why don't I own where I sleep? Because it doesn't put money in my pocket.
100%.
And I've said this before on the show. I live in a $2.3 million home. If I was to purchase this home, I'd have to put 20% down. Now I'm $460,000 that I have no longer access, control, and use of.
Opportunity cost.
$460,000 is now put into a home, which is locked. It's dead equity. I call it equity jail.
Yep.
It's not going to make me any money. Now I'm going to carry a $1.6 million mortgage. This is going to cost me about $9,000, $10,000 a month.
12, yeah.
Right? Now I've got my taxes, my maintenance, and my insurance. I'm around $11,000, $12,000 a month to sleep. You know what I pay for rent? $4,000.
Exactly.
I'm $8,000 ahead every month, and guess what? As a tenant, I have more rights.
You have way more rights.
I got more rights. Guess what happens?
I'm a landlord. I know.
Guess what happens? Guess what? I'm a landlord too.
Yeah, you are too. Yeah.
I have properties, right? But guess what happened last week? The laundry went.
Not your problem, man.
Not my problem.
Landlord.
I called the landlord. Hey, laundry machine no longer works.
Yep.
She sent in someone to look at it. The memory board is locked. Guess what?
New laundry machine.
I got a brand new washing machine.
Yep.
And my wife is happy. I didn't have to worry about a damn thing.
You're absolutely right.
However, my other properties, I have to be that landlord. However,
Those are tax
deductible.
Yep.
And they're paying it off. Now, a lot of people say, well, why are you paying off someone else's mortgage? Do you really understand how mortgage amortization works?
Exactly.
They don't understand.
Especially with the interest rates above 5%. And I know you're going to touch on this because you're into the numbers more than me. But even right now, like it's, the argument against that, and it's an interesting one. They say, well, if I bought a house right now for $1 million in 25 years, I could sell that house for $2 million. However, if you have a 5% interest rate with a 25-year AM, cash on cash, out of pocket for that $1 million property, you pay $2 million.
Yes.
So in 20 years or 25 years, if you paid $2 million for an asset that you bought for $1 million, in 25 years, you haven't made any money. You haven't realized any profit. Furthermore, any money that you put into that property, now you have opportunity cost on that, which is one of the reasons, and I know we were going to touch on that as well, which is one of the things that, and I know that this isn't popular because I know a lot of my friends do a lot of pre-construction that I've never thought it was a good investment because of the huge opportunity cost on the down payment that you're giving them. When you give that deposit to the builder, you're a venture capitalist. Because right now, that builder is taking your money, not giving you any percentage on it whatsoever. He's getting your money for free so that he can go and put it and deposit it somewhere. And once he deposits it, if he has 80% of the building sold, then he can go and say, this is what we have on deposits, Mr. Bank. Now I need to start getting advances on the build, on the construction cost. So you're a venture capitalist. And the problem and the challenge, and I know, again, please, I'm not saying anything bad about any of the pre-construction agents. I think they're fantastic, good for them. But I've never thought that it made any sense. And the problem is a lot of those agents push them as investments. And I can tell you, if they knew anything about investing, a lot of those don't make sense. And the dirty secret with real estate as agents, and I hope I'm not giving away too much, but agents, when we sell pre-construction, we get 4 to 6%. When we sell resale, we only get 2.5%. So you get all these underexperienced agents that know nothing about investing and don't have any investment real estate themselves, pushing what aren't good investments as good investments. And I think now you're seeing the bottom fall out because of that.
Listen, I'll be honest. I have a couple of pre-constructions that I purchased, but I identified
the correct ones.
There's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many, but I had to identify a growing area.
Love it.
Right. Number one, is the location growing? Is it revitalizing? Number one, what price per square foot am I buying at? And is this thing closing in 2 years or is this thing going to close in 6 years?
Yes.
What, if I'm using say real estate or a 4% trend line, what can I 4%. Sell this for in 6 years if I don't want to take possession? Now, I have seen some really great results and I've seen some really bad results. I've seen good results where someone paid, say, $450 or $550 a square foot, and they were able to assign it and close it at $800. They may go great money. But I've also seen the reverse. I've seen people pay $1,200 or $1,400 a square foot, and when it comes time to closing, it's worth $1,000.
100%. I think the big thing that you identified there is it has to be the proper project, the proper builder, and the proper climate. Because right now, the problem is, or the challenge is a lot of these builders or developers were selling properties not at what today's rate was, or what they thought that the market would bear in 4 or 5 years when the product is produced. To me, That's not investing. That's gambling.
It's speculating.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I don't gamble. I invest. And one of the interesting things too is I was thinking on this on the way over because it was kind of going through my head. One of the reasons why I've been able to do okay in my life or do well is because I think a lot of people get their mandates mixed up. The first thing that they do when they want to invest is the first thing they want to do is they say, man, I'm driven by profit. I want to make sure I make a profit. And then number two is try not to lose money. I inverse those. And I'm not overly cautious, but I always think, hey, man, if I'm going to get into this, what's my worst case? My worst case is I have to defend my money. I'm not losing any money. And then my second mandate is to make money. So I think when you mix those up, that's why a lot of people make these mistakes. Like when I was hearing people doing this like Nobu downtown, and they're paying like $1,600, $1,800 but I'm like, how are you ever going to get out of that?
No.
Like I have a client that they went and I think they paid like $780 for like 350 square feet. So it's over $2,000 a foot. I'm like,
That's New York prices.
yeah, I'm like, why would you do that?
We're
like,
not New York.
Yeah, and they went directly to the builder, which is fantastic. They weren't my client at the time, and they're like, Wayne, can you get me out of this? I'm like, no, I can't. I would love to, but I can't. Like, who is going to buy that property for that price, number one? Number two, how are you going to ever be able to rent that out to break even? Like, do you think you can rent a 355 square foot, like bachelor for $4,000? You're not going to.
This is not Manhattan.
So, but that's what I mean. So the numbers don't make sense. You've identified proper product and you've paid the proper price. Remember the trick of real estate. There's two. Always do the
Location.
opposite. So if everyone's buying, you sell. Everyone's selling, you buy. So when everyone was buying that Nobu and you had that fear of missing out and you kept going and, oh, I don't care. I'll pay. That's a recipe for a disaster. When everybody's buying, you should have been selling. And then number two, you only make money in real estate, not when you sell. When you buy.
When you buy.
You have to identify the
You
proper
gotta buy
product.
at the right price.
Buy at the right price, or else you're screwed. And it's so weird. Not every piece of real estate is a good investment. It's not. You, again, identify the proper
And location.
product. You're right. And that's why you're doing well. And the scary thing is, because you did your own numbers, and you learned your lessons when you bought that stock for $1.50, and it turns out your friend screwed you over, not maliciously, because he probably had your best interest in it.
He got
screwed too.
He got fired, and he had no idea that the CFO and the CEO were cooking the books.
There you go. But
And
so-
he lost his job amongst a lot of other people. But that's shit happens, and it happens to some of the greatest companies. Enron.
There you go. Enron.
Right?
Exactly. But that's the whole thing.
WorldCom.
Exactly. Fear of missing out. People are like, oh, it makes sense. I'm not going to do my own numbers. This person said it makes sense. I got to tell you, man, the first time or the first people, and I don't know how to articulate this correctly. Forgive me, because I'm a grade 10 education. That's it. I dropped out of grade 10. But the first people that are going to screw you over or give you bad advice are going to be your friends and your family.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not malicious. It's just they don't know. So your friend told you to buy that stock, and you believed in your friend. And it's not that he was doing something malicious. He just didn't know. But even right now, like you go to a restaurant, and right now people give 20% tip right away. And with the shittiest service. But then they kind of come to guys like us and like, hey, man, can you reduce your commission? I'm like, what? Why? Like, you're willing to give away 20% for bad service, but when it comes to, that doesn't affect your life at all, but when it comes to somebody that knows what they're doing, that could either make or break your financial future, you want to start to get cheap? Makes no sense, man. It makes zero sense to me.
I don't
So
discount my rate.
I don't discount, and I have to tell you, I would never ask my accountant, I would never ask my lawyer, I would never ask my financial advisor to discount. Why would you? And I'm sure that I probably pay more, and I'm sure that I could probably get my accountant down, or I probably get my stager, my designer, my marketers, whatever. I could probably cut a little bit off the top and use somebody else. But why would you do that?
Because
pay the money on the right things, man.
Well, I think when you start to ask for reductions, you might get it, but they're going to give you reductions too in their service, and they're going to cut corners. If you're a real estate agent, guess what? Oh, you need photos done? No problem. I'm going to use my iPhone.
Yeah,
I'm not going to bring in a photographer. I'm not going to do professional staging. I'm not going to have a professional videographer come in and do a 3D plan of your place. No, you're getting Android photos because I'm going to cut costs because you just asked me to lower my price. Okay, this is why I don't do it. It's like, hey, listen, I'm 5%, but this is what you're going to get. You're going to get this and this and this and that. If you're okay with this, let's sign the contract and let's move forward. If you're not, there's 9,000 other advisors or real estate agents that you could go to. Go ahead. I won't be offended.
Me neither. And you know what's amazing about that too is I've always got that. I've heard that a bunch of times. And hey, Wayne, this other agent, he's willing to reduce his commission. We'd like to work with you. Will you reduce yours? And I'm like, no, why would I? I go, and it's that old adage. So how hard was it for you to get him to reduce his commission? I go, not at all. He offered it pretty quick. So if he's not willing to fight for his own money, how hard is he going to fight for yours?
Right.
You want to get a shark. You want to get a tiger.
Yeah.
You want to get a lion. You want to get someone that is going to fight for every last penny. And you want to get someone that isn't just driven by their own success or their own money or their own compensation. I can tell you right now, just from sitting across from you, you're a competitive guy. I'm a competitive guy too. So for us, it's not the dollars. It's just we have to squeeze every last penny out of the other side because that's our way of winning.
Yeah.
And it's like, obviously, in the end, it's a game, but you don't like to lose. And if someone out there is just giving up their commission like that, that's a loser mentality right away.
He's willing to give in.
Yeah, he's not going to fight, man. No. Like, how long did it take you to get as strong as you did? Every day, look at the discipline.
This is 38 years of bodybuilding.
Yeah, and how many days, the days that you got your best gains, the days that you didn't want to go.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the days you got your best gains.
There's days I didn't want to go. You're dragging your ass on the couch. And he's like, no, I got to get in the gym.
Absolutely.
Especially the days I was competing.
Yeah.
Like you're
you
exhausted.
Competed?
I used to compete. I competed for a while. Yeah.
There you go.
I competed from age 23 to 31.
Okay, so what do you compete? So is that why
bodybuilding?
So that competition now is gone, and you still have that fire. So is that now transferred over to like your entrepreneurial life? Because you still compete. We compete every day.
It's a discipline. It's a mindset. Even my diet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times that, man, I'd like to go out and I'd like to eat crap and I want to go to Burger King or McDonald's and I'd like to eat a big ass greasy burger.
Yeah.
But I think, well, what's it going to do? Like, I got to be disciplined and stay on my diet.
Yes.
Maybe I'll reward myself one day a week where I get to have a greasy meal or something sweet, right?
Yeah.
But it's a mindset and it's discipline.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's hard, especially when you're dieting for a competition.
Yeah. Oh, you guys cut like crazy, man.
I was dieting. I used to diet 16 weeks out. So for 16 weeks, I was a miserable 16. I was a miserable son of a bitch.
It's 4 months, man. It's
4 months. And sometimes I had to cut down 40 pounds. Right. I would bulk up to 240 and I'd have to get on stage at 195, 196 pounds because if I anything over 198 pounds, I'm up to 198, I'm a light heavy.
Okay.
So I want to be the heaviest in my class.
Yeah.
As soon as at 199, I'm a heavyweight. And now I could be competing against guys who are 230 pounds.
Oh wow.
And I look like a tiny guy next to him.
That. You gotta
you want to be at the heaviest in your scale. So I had to cut down to say 196, 197.
Yeah.
So
did they weigh you on the day up?
Oh yeah.
So did you do the sauna with the garbage bag?
There was one time I had to put
sauna in the garbage bag?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The day before. So the day before, I remember I was getting ready for a show. It was the Southern Ontario's.
Yeah.
And it was a level 2 show, and I wasn't making weight. And it was the day before, and I'm like, I'm holding too much water.
Yeah.
And I was literally at the gym and guys are looking at me and I've got these sweat bags on and I'm like, what the hell? And I come out and I'm just drenched, getting on the bike, cardio for an hour in this garbage bags and just, you open up the leg and all this water comes down.
Yeah.
But I had to.
You have to.
It's discipline.
But that's the thing. You take away the choice, right? Now, let me ask you, because I'm really impressed with your life. Like your life story is phenomenal. So what is more important to you? Is it passion or discipline?
That's a really good question.
Isn't it? Yeah, that was posed to me, and I remember. Sorry, did you?
I think if you have the passion, the discipline will follow.
Correct, but I think in the end, and I remember when I said passion is passion, and I thought about it since then. It was one of those questions that you kind of think about when you're on the Peloton, or you think about when you're driving in traffic, and I'm like, which one is more? And I think actually now I'm going to change. I think it's discipline, because you could be passionate, you could love something, but you still have to put the work in. And every day tomorrow, if I don't want to do something, I still have to do it. And that's what you and I were talking about. And that's what we've been talking about with you, is that it's that accountability. Like, who are you accountable to? You're accountable to your son. You're accountable to your wife. But more importantly, you're accountable to yourself. You are.
And I'm also accountable to my clients.
And your clients, of course, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's, as soon as you put that accountability in, I think that's maybe the reason why the successful people, we're going to be successful in no matter what kind of parameters you put us in. Like, this was brought up to me too, that they say that, I was lucky because when I started buying houses, I was 23 years old. And I'm like, okay. And they go, you know, it was really easy for you guys to get mortgages back then. I can tell you, my first house was $230,000, and I think I was paying like 9% interest. So I think my payment was like $1,600. And now you could buy that same house, obviously a little bit more money than the 200,000. It's probably like 700,000. But now the interest rates are, well, now they're a little bit high. But for the longest time, they were sub 500. So it's not the parameters of maybe the numbers that made me go out and buy that, as much as it was the mindset. And I know that I just didn't articulate that correctly because I see you're puzzled and I'm looking at you over there. So maybe I messed that one up. But I'm just saying, it's the mindset, man. No matter what kind of parameters you put on, I'm going to tell you, you're going to be successful. I could put you in Kuwait tomorrow, and you're going to be successful in Kuwait. And I'm going to take you and put you in Bali, and you're going to be successful in Bali. Because you have that mindset. You don't want to live an average life.
No, it's a mindset not to be average.
That's what I said. Yeah. That's my only fear. Can you imagine waking up tomorrow and being an average life? I have to tell you, I was a mailman for 15 years. And I have to say it was a great job. I loved it. It was a lot of fun hanging out with the guys and everything else. But I saw some of the people that were working there, and it was funny. If there was ever the smallest change to their job, they would get outrageously upset. They would yell, they would scream, they would stamp their feet. And I'm like, I never really care because I know that this is such a small part of my overall life. So for me, and I love those people, and I hope it's not offending what I just said, but that was an average life that I just wasn't.
And some people are okay with average. Some people are okay. They like to have that security because being an entrepreneur, it all revolves risk.
Yeah, for sure.
And there is no guarantees.
Zero.
None. And some people they want to have that security. They want to punch the clock from 9 to 5 and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
There's nothing wrong with it.
For me, I never wanted that. I grew up extremely poor.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up with my mother, with 3 other sisters.
Awesome.
My stepfather left when I was 8.
Amazing.
And I watched my mother struggle. And I said, I am not going to turn out like them.
Yeah.
I
love
will
it.
not.
Yeah, love it. See, and that's what I said. Sorry, again, I didn't mean to, because the first thing, as soon as you said that, and I know that, I hope my responses weren't inappropriate.
No, because
but I'm like, awesome, great, amazing.
You know, some people will use that as their excuse. Well, you know, I grew up poor, therefore I must be poor.
Yep.
And, you know, they use it as a crutch.
Yeah,
I use it as a stepping stone
100%.
saying, I don't want to turn out like that.
Yeah.
I want better for myself. I don't want to have to worry about, I've got to watch the dollars at the end of the month until the next government assistant check comes in.
Yeah.
No. I watched my mom do that. I'm not doing that myself.
But isn't that amazing? That's my whole point when it comes to you and the life that you've designed.
Yeah.
Is that you could have had, and everybody out there could have used a crutch and said, I'm not successful because of this. I can't do this. I
blame
can't
it on the
afford
youth.
This. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you know, my dad was an alcoholic. That's why I'm an alcoholic. You know, my dad left when I was a kid. That's why I'm messed up now. Like, eventually you have to understand that your parents, 99.999% of them out there, they did the best they could. They really did. They tried to do the best they could. If they didn't do what you thought was the proper thing, you have to forgive them, let it go. You got to drop that. It's too heavy to carry around. My dad, I love him to death, but I love him a lot more now than when he was alive. Because when he was alive, we used to butt heads a lot, like a lot. And now that he's gone, it's a lot easier for me to forgive him and say, you know what? This guy did his best.
But do you think if your father was not in real estate or as a developer, do you think you'd be in real estate today?
I think I would be in something. So I just knew, again, that I wasn't supposed to live an average life. It could have been in music. It could have been something else. But I think I got into real estate because, again, I just grew up around it. And it's one thing that I understood and I knew. But I think it's the same thing as you. I have that brain, that energy, that heart of an entrepreneur. I would not be happy working for somebody else. I would not
I'd get
be
fired.
happy. You know,
I'd be fired.
How many times would I be fired?
I go, what? Fuck you. I didn't do it my way. I'd be fired.
I can't oppose
I can't. I'm an alpha male.
Yeah, there you go, right?
I'm
Yeah.
alpha. I cannot work for somebody else.
Imagine this, Canada Post has a very, very strong union. Dude, I got suspended 4 fucking times. 4. You know how hard it is to get suspended at Canada Post with a union? So, I mean, the writing was on the wall.
Yeah,
eventually these guys are going to let me go. But I don't work well with those parameters, which is why I push back against school. So one of my issues was, and I'm sure you read this in the little story, when we used to go around as kids and they would ask, hey, what do you want to be when you're older? And people would say doctor, baseball player, sniper, army guy, fireman, a cop. I'd say, I just want to be the owner. And I didn't even know what that meant. And I would be in like kindergarten and it doesn't even make sense. Even when I try to look at it now, I'm like, yeah, what did I mean by that? I don't know. But I do know that when I got to high school, that I had a lot of challenges. And one of my challenges would be that I would always speak about big things, big dreams. Like I would sit around the table at lunch and I'm like, hey, John, what's your dream car? Rolls Royce. Hey, Marcus, what's your dream car? Acura NSX. Hey, Moose, what's your dream car? Lamborghini Countach. And now, 25 years later, I talk to those same people. Hey, man, what's your dream car? I want to get a Sienna. What's your dream car? Toyota Camry. What's your dream car? Chevy Tahoe. Dude, that's fucking sad to me. I'm telling you, my dreams are never going to fit my reality. My dreams are always going to surpass my reality. But again, sorry, I got a little sidetracked. What I was saying.
No, this is good stuff.
But when it
because
came to
because I don't think people talk enough about their dreams
Fucking
because
A, yeah,
they're afraid. And I always say, if your dreams don't scare people, they're not big enough.
Exactly. You know what the amazing thing is you're going to talk to two different rooms. And you're going to go into that room over there and you're going to talk about your dreams. And everyone's going to say, John's fucking bananas, man. Guy's out of his mind. He thinks he's that special he can do that. He thinks that he's going to be able to have $20 million. What a crazy person. You're going to go in the next room, other people, and they're going to say, can you believe John only wants $20 million? Like, that's it. He wants to stop at 20. So that's the whole thing.
So
you
true.
have to make sure that you're in the right room, man.
100%.
And if you're not happy with yourself, if you feel that people are talking down to you, if you feel that maybe your dreams are too much, dude, get the fuck out of that room today. Because I got to tell you, there's a room, you're in the wrong one. There's a room that's going to suit you a lot better. But what I was going to say is those teachers. This is why I kind of had a hard time. Because I would tell my teachers, and they're like, hey, Wayne, what do you want to do? And I'd say, well, I'm not really sure, but my goal in life is to have 10 million. Or my goal in life is to be a millionaire. My goal in life is to, be able to travel to Italy or see Sardinia or, to Dubai without having to worry about it and have a Ferrari, Rolexes, whatever. And they would all say, well, I don't know if you could really do that, or don't you think that that's too much? And it would be weird because we used to walk through the parking lot to get to the school, and I'm listening on people telling me that my dreams are too big or that it can't be done. I'm listening to financial advice from a dude that's driving a Toyota. Like, I'm not trying to, there's nothing wrong with Toyota. You have a Toyota?
I don't.
Okay, thank God. Okay. But I mean, like, why am I listening to you, man?
Don't take financial advice from people who are doing less than you.
But that's the weirdest thing. Don't take any advice from people that aren't doing what you want. Like, it's weird.
Yeah.
Right now, I could tell you, like, I have, in our family, we have a lot of very, very strong athletes. Like my nephew, my niece, like all-star athletes. I have another nephew that's going to the Olympics. I have zero athletic ability, not a speck, I could tell you. So would you come to me looking at how to be an athlete? Absolutely not. Go to Tyler. He's going to be in the Olympics. Are you going to come to me learning about how to lift? I can lift okay. Talk to John. John's going to put you on a diet. It's so weird that we listen to unqualified opinions all the time. And the same thing. It's crazy to me. And I think, again, I know we're not going to get into politics, but that's one of the reasons why we are in the state that we are in our country is because we're having people making financial decisions that don't have no financial acuity. Like it's
journalists
insane.
who claim to be a finance minister.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, come on. Can you please just go to school? And you know me, I'm anti-school. But I'm like, take a course, run a business. Learn the balance sheet. It's not hard.
It's funny you mentioned that because my son, I've always talked to my son. My son is he's in a private school. He's doing
Love it.
Excellent. He's doing amazing.
Good dude.
And for 3 years in a row, he's achieved what's called the Academic of Excellence Award.
Oh, great.
He's maintained an 80 average throughout all three terms. Okay, very proud of him. And his mother and I have been pushing him to saying, you should do something like become a doctor. He said, I want to be a plastic surgeon.
Love it.
And I'm like, okay, that's great. Or maybe get into regenerative medicine or doing something in the medical field to help people.
Yes.
So we always said, hey, listen, you're going to go to Ireland when you're done. When you're not going to go to university. You're going to go right from high school. You're going to go to Ireland or you're going to go to med school.
Yeah.
We were leaving a Jays game. This is maybe 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We're leaving the Jays game and he's getting all teary. He goes, Dad, did you know what you wanted to be when you were my age? And I said, man, I probably changed my mind 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
He says, what did you want to be? I said, I was thinking a lawyer, maybe a pilot, a chef. Yeah. I'm like, but I changed so many times. I never ever thought that I would get into financial planning,
No.
but things along the course of my life changed. I said, why do you ask? And I see his eyes are filling up with tears, and we're walking to the downstairs, and he starts crying. I said, Michelangelo, what's wrong? Like, why are you crying? He says, I don't think I want to go to university. I don't want to go to med school. I'm like, that's okay. I'm like, but why are you crying? He goes, I don't want to disappoint you and mom.
Oh, fuck.
And I said, buddy, you're not going to disappoint us. Here's what I want you to do. First of all, you're 12.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to know what you want to do.
exactly.
Your mother and I are trying to guide you. Our job as a parents is not to tell you what to do, but guide you,
Love it.
right? Because we've been there, I've seen. But if you don't think you want to go to med school, that's okay.
Yeah.
I said, but you know what's going to disappoint us? If you don't get good grades today.
Exactly. Because that's something that you're focusing on.
You
That's a
got to
goal.
keep your options open.
Correct.
Get good grades today. So we got into the truck and we're starting to drive home. And I said, so what do you think you want to do? He said, I'd love to open up a restaurant. I'm like, great. Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I said, but I want you to know, I think that's fantastic. However, 80% of restaurants fail in the first 5 years. So it's going to take a lot of work.
Yep.
It's going to take 7 days a week. It's 14 hours a day.
Yep.
And you got to understand every aspect of the business. And you should probably go to a culinary school to learn to be a chef. He's all for it. And that's all he talks about is opening up a restaurant. So I'm
Amazing.
like, that's where his heart is. I'm like, all I want you to do is do something that you'll be happy. Because listen, I could push you to go to university, which I don't want you to go to university unless you're going to become a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, or an engineer.
Well, it's
There's
just
no
wasted
reason.
money.
There's no reason for you to go.
You're right.
I would rather spend $100,000 on a
backing your
business
restaurant.
coach,
Yeah.
on a business coach that's going to teach you how to run a fucking business.
Yeah, man.
Because these schools, what you're going to learn in my book, they don't teach in schools.
Yeah.
And to run a business, they're not going to teach you.
Yeah.
John D. Rockefeller said, I want a world of workers,
Yeah, that's
not
just
thinkers.
smart enough, just
not
smart enough
thinkers,
to run the machines.
right?
Yeah.
So going to university, I think, is a complete waste of time
Yep.
if you want to get into business.
No.
Okay? Take that money and hire a life coach or a business coach.
100%.
Right?
You know what's
Do you believe in coaching?
Absolutely, 100%. Michael Jordan is the best athlete I've ever seen. He had a coach.
Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky's my hero. He had a coach.
Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods. Why wouldn't you have a
Scotty
coach?
Scheffler, all the top guys in the world.
I don't know everything.
Do you have a real estate coach?
I do.
Oh,
I have a mentor.
Yeah, so do I.
yeah.
He unfortunately he couldn't make my book launch because he's from Nashville, and unfortunately he was checking in for his flight, and he says, "Oh shit, I don't have my passport." So he calls his wife. He's in Denver.
Okay.
And he calls his wife and says, "Honey, can you? I forgot my passport. Can you send me my passport?" She goes, "Sure." She calls him back. She goes, "You realize your passport expired 2 years ago?" He's like, "Oh shit!" So he thinks he can get in with his driver's license
No,
because this
you
new
can't do it anymore.
this new thing with the U.S. You can for up to 1 year if your passport expired. However, it's been 2 years his passport
I didn't
expired.
know that.
So unfortunately, my mentor couldn't make my book launch. He felt so terrible. But I have a coach and a mentor,
course.
and you have a
Yeah,
coach and mentor,
absolutely, yeah.
and I think I personally believe in it because we got to go back to accountability.
Yes.
I think a coach is also there to keep you accountable.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is that even right now, a lot of people come to me for advice on being an agent, even younger agents. It's almost like I'm a broker. Like, it's always weird. They ask me, I'm like, why don't you go talk to your fucking broker? Like, I'm not getting paid for this. But it's amazing because people ask me for advice on just how to be an agent. I have to tell you, the biggest shout out right now, I'm going to give a shout out, Silvio Azanari. And he was my agent pretty much my whole life. And it's funny because after I became an agent, I told him I wanted to be an agent, even though I would probably buy and sell one property each per year, he was incredibly supportive. And you would think that if he was going to be selfish, he would say, oh, no, maybe you shouldn't be an agent. It's too hard, because he would want to keep me as his client. But he's the guy that I go to all the time. And I can tell you this, every single time that I bought a house, I was too afraid to actually finance or to actually close the deal to sign. And I would say, Silvio, like, I'm terrified. I can't do this. And he goes, Wayne, listen to me. You're signing it right now. I don't want to hear anything about it. Because he goes, this deal makes sense. And you've done this before. So even me, I can tell you, every time I bought a house, never did I think I paid too little. Every single time I'm like, oh my God, maybe I paid too much. But because of Silvio and Silvio pushing me to do that, I'm here today. So even right now, I always go back to him and I ask his advice. And it's funny because I think sometimes he gets a little bit frustrated too because he's like, hey, why don't you just go ask your broker? Like, what's wrong with you? But yeah, he's my number one mentor. And the other person is, it's amazing because people get to see this. And I could tell you, you didn't make yourself. Like as much as you've done everything to get to where you are, there's always people that help you along the way. And there's always these unsung heroes. The biggest person for me that I owe everything to, it's number one is Silvio, but probably even I should put Rhoda as number one. And that's my kid's mom. So Rhoda and I remember we started dating back when I was 25 years old. And within 3 months, we moved in together. And then from there, I was a mailman. She was medical admin. I would come home and I would say, hey, I just bought a house, but I can't afford the mortgage. Can you co-sign or can you sign? She's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Signs. Anytime I ever need anything from her, signs. So I only am where I am today because of her. And even though she and I are not together right now, she's my absolute best friend in the world, and she's my partner. So we raised the kids together. I know it's probably a little bit of a challenging situation. She lives on one side of the house, I live on the other. We do family trips together, whatever she wants. And I know that your background culturally is Italian, and now
Scottish. Well, I grew up Italian, but my blood is Scottish and Irish.
But it's even, I don't know if it's culture, if it's just if it's written within your DNA. But one of the things is once a woman has your children, like you kind of put her on a pedestal. So whatever Rhoda wants, she has the rest of her life. She's my partner, she's my best friend, and it's funny because I get all the accolades. I get to be in the magazines. People ask me to write the books, and people get to see me going out here and enjoying my life and such. But I would not be where I am without that lady. And I think one of the biggest things that we learn as we get older and more successful is that we didn't really do it on our own. And we have to be grateful for the people that are in our life. And if you don't have someone that's supporting you in your life, go and find someone. They're out there. Go talk to John. Like, John will help you. The amazing thing is, I can tell you, just you and I have only spoken a couple times, but I guarantee you, if I asked you, hey, man, how do I get wealthy or how do I get to where you are, you're going to talk my fucking ear off for an hour. Successful people that have made money.
They want to help you.
Yeah, but that's the thing. And they're so passionate about what we do. Like, there's 4 things I know about. I know about the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know about watches. I know about house music. And I know about real estate. One of those 4 things, not much beyond that, I'm not going to be honest. But those 4 things, I'll talk to you for hours about. So if you're ever wondering how to be wealthy, if you're ever wondering how to be a good agent, if you're wondering anything about real estate, talk to somebody who you want to be like. Pick up the phone. I guarantee they're going to give you the time and they're going to talk to you. They're just human. Like, there's nothing special about me. I tell people all the time, I'm barely articulate. I'm rarely the smartest guy in the room. I can't see in the future. I don't have the ability to fly. I don't have wings. I'm just an average person that didn't want to live an average life. That's all it was.
And you're humble.
Oh, yeah, not really. Yeah, not really. But that's the whole point, right? Like, I just didn't want to live an average life. Dude, there's nothing special about us other than the fact that we have a burning desire to not live an average life.
Yeah. So, this show, we like to talk about real estate. I felt it's more of a Steve Harvey show. About life code.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So getting
back.
We're
supposed to go back to real estate.
Getting back to some real estate.
Yeah.
So you bought your first house at 23 into now, but you've got a $12 million portfolio now.
Maybe a bit more.
Has your real estate investment strategies changed over time?
Yes, they have.
And how?
Yep.
And what do you think about AI now being used in real estate and the technology factor? Has that changed in how you do your investing now?
Well, there's 2 questions there. So the first one is my strategies definitely have changed. So one of the strategies that was really important to me when I first started was cash flow positive. Now, obviously, we all want to have assets that put cash into our pocket. Like, that's the definition of an asset. Yeah. But for me, any property can be cash flow positive if you put a large enough down payment. So for me, I have to look at every deal independently. And if there's a deal, like, I'll give you an example. I remember I bought one house. It was 2014, June the 2nd. And I remember that because I bought it from the hospital room when Stella was born. And it was this house at Avenue Road in Lawrence. And I had a mortgage in place, but I was a mailman at the time. And that mortgage, unfortunately, when the inspector or maybe the appraiser went in, they found mold in the house. So they pulled their mortgage. So I had to close with a B mortgage. And I remember back then, I had to go in, I had to do all of the work. But after getting all of my rent, I was negative $500 every month. So $500 every month is $6,000 a year, and over 5 years, that's $30,000. I was a mailman. $30,000 over 5 years was not easy for me to handle. But that product or that house went up from a value of $630 up to $1 million in those same 5 years because what we were able to do to it. So a lot of people would say, hey, man, I'm not going to get into that deal and lose $30,000. But if you did that, you tripped over $30,000 and it cost you $370,000. So for me, I'd like for properties to be cash flow positive. I would, but it's not the be all end all for me. For me, I need to make sure that what am I doing to this particular property that's going to outpace the rest of the market gains. Because I'm not just interested in regular market gains. There has to be something that I could do to that product and to have a lift or to make it worth more. Like I often say, people, because you do mortgages as well, correct? Mm-hmm. So it's always strange to me that people will be wanting to make like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 in positive cash flow because that's obviously susceptible to tax. It's not what I do. So for me, I buy a house, I renovate a house, I rent out that house, and I refinance that house.
So you're using the BRRRR method.
BRRRR method. Yeah, I think, you know what's weird? That name or that moniker of BRRRR kind of came on in the last couple of years, but it's just something that everybody's been doing for 10 years.
Yeah.
But
buy, renovate,
yeah, refi and rent.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done. So each one of my houses right now, I can say I have them for free, every one. Because any money that I put into it, I've been able to refinance out afterwards. And for me, my rental properties, they're still positive. Not as much as they could be, but they're still positive because for me, the second that I can get some money out of that property, I draw it out and I use that to go and buy other assets. Or obviously my own house, I have a very, very small mortgage because I don't get to have any tax benefits on my own house. True. I get to have tax benefits on the rentals. Now, and I know you and I are going to go back. You're going to call me out and say, why are you owning your own house when it's not a real asset? To me, that's a store of capital. And one of the deals that Rhoda and I made, that's my kid's mom, is I said, I'm going to give you guys this house. Like, I don't want my name on it. This is yours house. So no matter what happens, because I saw what happened with my dad with the ups and downs and everything else, you guys always have this house. No matter what happens to me tomorrow, I can get in a car accident, I could get sued, whatever. This is your house. I don't want my name on it. It's you and the kids. And then I get the other 7. So that was a pretty fair trade-off. She could have literally cleaned me out for half the money. But she didn't. So that's why, again, I trust her complicitly. But I guess that's the answer. I kind of went around it. But yeah, for me, it's more about what's that property going to be worth? So I like to buy really awful houses in fantastic areas. So before, if I wanted more cash flow, I would buy houses maybe like student rentals, or I'd buy houses where the tenant profile maybe wasn't as strong, but they would pay more compared to the purchase price. So better cap rates. But for me now, what it is I want to make sure that I have an exit. So my houses right now are in Forest Hill and Lawrence Park. So the cash flow is good on them. It could be better on other products. But the reason why I have those, my exit is to build. So once those properties are paid off or paid down to the point where I don't owe much on the land, knock it down, build it, and then sell it. So if I do that, that's kind of the retirement there.
What's been your biggest lesson that you've learned in your real estate career? And this could be before becoming an agent, even as an investor, buying and selling. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned that you can share with our listeners?
Listen to people that have done it. So like, don't try to recreate what is that? Recreate the wheel? Is that the proper term? Yeah, don't, man. Just listen to people that are where you want to be. And most of them will talk your ear off. You don't know everything. You might be smart. You might have a couple of successes. Don't get too arrogant because you could get knocked down tomorrow. And then the other thing is just, again, you only make money in real estate when you buy. And if you aren't sure, talk to someone that is sure. And then once you are, take away the choice. You don't have a choice whether you want to do this or not because nobody wants to do it because everybody's afraid at the end. You have to take away that choice. If it makes sense, remove the option and then you'll ultimately be successful. Remember we were saying about you with bodybuilding. If you would say, hey, I can work out today or I can maybe skip today, you take away the skip and you do work out. Remove the option, man. If you want to be successful, you have to pay the piper.
Here's a question. We're kind of looking at a bit of politics here, but we're not going to get too much into politics. Do you feel that politics involved right now, being a landlord, do you think that plays a really big role? Like, how do you protect yourself from rogue renters?
Yes.
Let's call it that, guys that just say, you know what, I know the system and the political environment and the law will allow me to just not pay this guy rent.
So the interesting thing is that I've had two incredibly challenging tenants. Both didn't pay for, one didn't pay for 12 months, one didn't pay for, I think it was 14. So I think down on that year alone, I think I was down when I worked it. I was about, with legals and everything, was about $100,000 I lost in 1 year on missed revenue and on legal bills. The funny thing is, every time that I've had a bad tenant, they've been my own because I didn't do the proper due diligence. Every time I've put a tenant in a client's property, they've never had any issues. It's weird because my problem or my challenge, and I know you're going to call me out because you're looking at me, I'm more accountable to my clients than I was for myself. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Yeah, they're good. Like, they've got a good story. I'm going to give them a break. I never do that. I would never do that with one of my clients' properties, but for mine, I have. So the one thing the same thing I tell my clients right now is I always say it's better to have a vacant property than to have a challenging tenant. So it's funny, of all of the properties I've ever done, the two challenging tenants, both were my own on my own properties. I have to be more accountable to myself. Lesson.
You and I are both a kind of a rags to riches story.
Yeah.
Do you think it's still possible today, or do you think the system is rigged against us?
No, fuck it, man. There's no such thing. It's rigged if you think it's rigged. It's easy if you think it's easy. Because I can tell you, there's people making millions of dollars every day, and especially when I hear the younger generation complaining that the system might be broken. And again, it might be more challenging. But if I took you out today and I put you in 1930 at the end of the Great Depression, you'd still be successful. If I took you out today and I put you again in Kuwait, you'd still be successful. Like, I think that right now there's always opportunity. I'm
a different generation. I'm a early 70s baby.
Yeah, me too.
And you've got now, these, what do they call them, Gen Xers or what's 2000? Gen Z?
Gen Z? Alpha? Gen Alpha?
It's Gen Alpha.
Gen Alpha, yeah.
Gen Alpha. I just think this newer generation that are born in the early 2000s, I think a lot of them are expecting, they feel entitled.
Yeah, for sure.
Lazy.
Yeah. So
and they feel that the system owes them.
Yeah, so amazing. But that's an amazing opportunity for Michelangelo, Stella, and Quinn. If you put a little bit of shark in them, if you instill that in them, they're going to destroy when they these other people that they go up against. Michelangelo, that was the first time I've ever met him, in a room full of very wealthy and intimidating people. Stood up right away. Looks in your eyes, shakes your hand, and he has a hard handshake too.
Yeah, he's big kid. He's 6 foot.
He's a big dude, man. He's bigger than me.
He's bigger than me. I look up to him like.
But that's the thing. Like, we can look at the generalization of 99%, or we could look at people like Michelangelo. Imagine with what you've instilled in him. You look at that kid in 20 years, I guarantee that he is going to be a game changer. So as much as you could say that the chips are stacked against you, okay, our parents came here, like your parents are, turns out, Irish.
Well, my mom was here, but my mom's Scottish.
Yeah.
And my father is American.
Okay, so even if you look back in the 50s, you had to be drafted. You had to fight in a war.
Yeah.
You look in the 70s, we had all sorts of heinous racism. You looked in the 80s, we had sexism. Like, our life and the new generation's life is not that hard. So every generation has things stacked against them. It depends on how you look at it. Like, you had Sahar on here. Sahar is an immigrant from a different country. Yeah. She's a small little tiny girl, beautiful, by the way. And look at what she's been able to do because she doesn't look at her limitations. So the problem or the challenge, again, that I think is this new generation is so easy to give up and so easy to say, oh, this has been stacked against me. I'm sorry, man. It's not. Because you know what? We didn't have this. Right now, you could turn this on and start a multi-million-dollar business in a year.
Yeah.
I didn't have that shit. You wanted to start a shop, what'd you do? You had to go out there, you had to save some money, you had to buy brick and mortar store. Then you had to do advertising where you had to pay. Do you remember when we first started? I used to advertise my rental units in the Toronto Star, and it used to cost me $80, I think, a week.
Yeah, yeah. There's a little section in the classifieds and the rentals.
776 Danforth Road, $1,200. Like, we don't have that cost anymore. So
technology has replaced all that.
You're right. So the limitations that these kids have, are you going to focus on that, or are you going to focus on the successes? I think the biggest challenge, and we were talking about this earlier, is we've now given these kids not even the fact that they feel entitled. We've given them instant gratification, which doesn't happen. Like, you have a headache, take a pill. You want to lose weight, take a shot of Ozempic. You want to eat something, put it in the microwave. We didn't have that. We used to understand, and we need to get back to this. Investing is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not. It's a get-rich-eventually plan. There's a difference. There's no such thing as getting rich quick.
And there's a big difference between investing and speculating.
Gambling,
I see people going, "Oh yeah, I'm investing." Well, what are you investing in? "Oh, I've got a plan. I'm putting in the stock market." And go, "No, stop. That's not investing. That's speculating. Investing is where you should be no risk of loss. That's an investing."
You and I agree. Remember, number one and number two, man.
Don't lose money.
We see the same things. That's amazing. Yeah.
Investing, you're speculating, and if you don't understand what you're doing, don't speculate.
Fucking right, yeah, man.
Right. So there's a really big difference. And when we talk about, we talked a little while ago about our kids, it was taboo to talk about money at the table.
No, we
right?
talk about money all the time.
No. I talk about money all the time with my son. And guess what? I've got him reading my book.
Yeah, awesome.
My son has to, before he gets to play video games, he has to do an hour of reading a day.
Love it.
And he had these fiction books. He was like reading Diary with Wimpy Kid and stuff
Who
like
cares?
that.
He's
and he
still
goes,
reading.
But he was reading and he goes, "Dad, I ran out of books." I said, "Okay, well, go into my bookcase and grab a book." He goes, "Dad, your books are boring." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "They're all about money and finance." I go, "Tell you what, why don't you read my book?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Yeah, but it's all about finance." I go, "Let me tell you something. You read my book and I guarantee you're going to know more about money than half the population."
Half, 90.
Okay?
Even
You're
the
gonna
people that are making policy.
you
you'll
will
know more.
learn more about money than half this population and anyone in your school. I'm going to tell you right now.
Especially your teachers.
He's like on page 60. He's going through my book,
it.
and I talk to him. I go, "What did you learn?" He talks to me about what he's learned in this book, and he'll ask me questions. He goes, "I don't understand this." I go, "That's okay. It's
amazing.
Ask me if you don't understand." But he's reading my book.
So the fact that he's going to sit down and actually ask a question means that he's really absorbing the information.
Yeah.
Nothing's worse when people just say, "Oh, I read your book," or "Yeah, I understand what you talk about." I love when people ask questions back. You know what's funny? I'll tell you something. Yeah. So my daughter, Quinn, she has to invoice me because we don't give allowance. But what I do is I pay her 10 cents for every page that she reads. So if she wants to get paid, I say, "I'm not giving it to you. Give me an invoice." So she has to write out an invoice, has to send it to Wayne at wayneskinnerrealty.ca. She has to give me an invoice. I read 10 pages times 200. 200 pages times 10 cents.
You should listen to my podcast with Scott Donnell.
Okay.
Scott Donnell, he's in the U.S., and he just did a big thing with Tony Robbins.
Wow.
Okay, he's on stage with Tony Robbins. He runs a company called Gravy Stack,
Okay.
and what his mission is to educate households and dinner talk.
Yeah.
The talk about money at the dinner table. Watch that episode with Scott Donnell because he says the problem is what a lot of parents do is we are giving allowances for basic chores. No.
That's the basic.
You got to do above and beyond, right? Above and beyond. And what he's got, Gravy Stack, I tried to download it on the app for my son because it's like a bank account. And then, he talked about his daughter going to a birthday party, had to bring a gift. He goes, "I didn't buy it. My daughter brought it." And you know how proud she was?
Yeah, for
she
sure.
showed up to the birthday party. You remember that, Matthew, my technician? You remember that podcast we had with Scott Donnell? And he said how
Can you
proud.
send that to me? Yeah, please.
I'm gonna send you. Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's on Spotify. And he says she was so proud to go up and say, "I want you to open this gift because she spent it with her own money." It teaches kids about budgeting and finance. So check out Scott Donnell and Gravy Stack. Unfortunately, he said he's going to try and get Gravy Stack available for Canada. It's only the U.S. right now. But the point I'm making is don't pay your kids for chores above me. So I paid my son $20. I taught him how to cut the grass. He likes it. He goes, "So Dad, does that mean if I cut the grass, I'm going to get $20? Yeah, you're going to get $20. And he says, "Do I get to spend on anything I want?" I go, "Nope.
No.
You got to save 50%.
You teach him about taxes.
You got to save 50%, and then you get to spend 50%.
Love it. Love that.
So I'm already teaching you how to save.
Isn't that amazing that that kind of comes organically? Because one of the things too, I remember this about my dad. I remember the first year that I was working with him, and this was after I dropped out of high school. My dad had several businesses, and at one time he was in the hospital for 10 months, and it was challenging. So I kind of took over the family business. I don't really want to get into what it was, but I remember I made an insane amount of money, like a very good amount of money for a 19-year-old. And I remember him saying this to me. He's like, "Hey, whatever money you get, I want you to spend it on whatever you wanted. So I remember I bought a Tag watch. That's how I fell in love with watches. And I bought my first watch from Costco. When Tag used to sell, it was like $2,500. And then I bought like a bunch of Armani suits, and I had a Corvette, and I had all that, and like these fancy video game systems. My dad's like, I really want you to spend every last penny that you get on anything that you ever wanted. And I remember a couple years later, that business went away and there was nothing. And then all of a sudden he goes, yeah, see, what did you learn? He learns you learned what something is worth. Something is not worth what you paid. Something is only worth what someone else is willing to pay you. So you could pay $2,000 for a suit. It's not fucking worth $2,000. It's only worth what somebody else is going to pay you. It's those lessons that you're teaching Michelangelo that I'm telling you, those organic ones are going to make this guy a fierce beast, man. Oh, yeah. The same thing with my kids. And the weird thing is, especially that you touched on it too. And when my kids, like at school and stuff, when they say, well, you know, we're trying. And I'm like, so what? And I'm like, well, we're working hard. Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, and I know this sounds controversial, you don't get credit for fucking working hard. Everybody works hard. That's what work is. And you don't get credit for trying. You have to get results. So I know that sounds a little bit harsh, especially with today's generation, but that's how it was growing up. Do you remember, and even this, you played sports growing up.
Yeah.
So I played sports and I was awful.
I played softball in my life.
There you go. And I was awful. I just was never very good. But I remember the whole thing about sports is your coach would be on you and on you and on you, and almost to the point where you were embarrassed if you weren't good enough. So that was the impetus for you to go home and maybe do a couple more push-ups, or maybe go home and do a little bit more BP, or to throw the ball around with your dad or your brother or whatever. And it's amazing because we've taken that away now. We've taken that to the point where it's okay to you know, maybe not live up to your potential. Again, it's okay to fail. In fact, I want you to fail as much as possible, because if you're not failing, you're not fucking trying enough.
And you're not learning.
Either you win, exactly, either you win or you learn. So the failing part doesn't count. But my whole point about that is that you should be embarrassed if you're not living the life that you truly want. And the reason why you're not is because you're fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of public opinion. I have none of that shit, man. And I could tell you, it was the most freeing thing I've had. I was talking to an agent yesterday, and he sent me a message, and I don't know who this dude is. I have no idea. But he sent me a message, hey, man, I really like your social media. So I'm like just talking back and forth. I'm like, how you doing? He goes, I've been in this business now for 3 years. I'm not doing that well. I'm like, okay, what's your number? I'll call you. And it's weird. So I'm talking to this guy. And just by speaking to him, I'm trying to make him understand that on the other side of fear is everything that you want. And you're telling me all of your failures. I don't really give a shit about your failures. Tell me about your successes. He goes, well, I haven't had a lot. I go, you haven't had a lot yet. He goes, yeah, but I just want to do that. I'm like, take away just, and take away I haven't done this, and take away all of those negative things that you're saying. Because I could tell you, between me and you, you're an alpha male. I'm a pretty dominant person as well. If somebody writes a message to you, hey, I'm just checking in with you, wanted to see what you think about this. Maybe sometime, if you have some free time, can we chat? You know what you're going to do with that? Who the fuck is this? You're going to throw it away. Instead, if someone says...
No confidence.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, man, we need to talk. What's your number? Boom. Like that. Like, it's so weird that just the way that you speak, the way that you present yourself, the way that you communicate, I think your inner person is going to come out. And that's why I believe you can't teach what we have. You just can't. I would love to say that you can't, but you can't take someone that's not a killer, that doesn't have that drive. You can't take him, teach him a couple scripts, and expect him to be successful. It's just not in him.
I think it's either in you or not. And, and you talked about creating this life, and I would say, create a life that you don't have to retire from.
But that's the whole thing too. Yeah, like you know,
I could do this till I'm 75. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I love what I do. Dude, and I know there are advisors in my industry who are like 76 years old.
Why wouldn't you?
I'm trying to buy their book of business. Like,
why wouldn't you?
No, I'm not selling. I'm like, dude, you're 76. No, I love what I do.
But that's the whole thing. Like,
he works 15, 20 hours a week. He loves it.
I retired.
Keeps him alive.
Even when people talk to me about that. So, like, I retired from Canada Post at 40. Like, that was a retirement because I didn't like that job. I liked the job, but for me, it was just a vehicle to do something else. So at 40, I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to become an agent now. And it's weird because even that one, going back to that one, that was the property that I bought for $630, and then it became worth $1 million. And to be honest, I severed the lot and I made $800,000. So half of that was mine, half of that went to my mentor. So for me, at 40 years old, working at Canada Post, believe me, $400,000 was life-altering money. So I took that money, put it in my pocket. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go be an agent now. And I only became an agent because I would buy and sell a house every year, and I wanted to stop bothering my mentor / agent, because I would call him every week. I'm like, hey, anything come out? Is there anything here? What do you think about this? So I just was doing it for myself. I had no idea that my story or I guess the way that I work would resonate with so many people, because now I got to be a top 1% agent. I think it took me like maybe 3 years to get there. And every year since then, I'm telling you, it's cartoon money. It's insane what we make. Well, you know, because you do it as well.
Yeah, and you know, I became an agent because I way back I was buying and I was investing, I was buying and flipping homes with. I'm not sure if you met him. He was when you came up to get your book signed. He was standing right next to me. It's my best friend, Jason.
Oh, he dresses well.
Dresses really well. Really beautiful wife.
Yeah. Oh, good dude. Yeah, good dude.
That's my best friend.
Oh, nice.
So we bought and sold several homes. We knocked them down, rehabbed them. Right. So we were doing that, and I was reading. Do you know who Manny Koshpin is? Manny Koshpin. Oh, you'd love this guy. He's a big real estate guy. Follow him on social media, Manny Koshpin. He's got like a $300 million car collection.
Oh, beautiful.
But he did all in real estate.
Yeah,
he got into commercial real estate. He did all kinds of businesses and they failed, but commercial real estate, he's out in California. Crazy car collection. He's done very well. But he wrote a book about 10 years ago. It's called The Contrarian Playbook. Okay. And I remember reading the first chapter. I'm at the gym, I'm doing my cardio, and I'm reading this book. And his first chapter says, if you want to be a successful real estate investor, go get licensed. I made $10 million last year just on my own deals.
Commissions,
Wayne, I remember finishing my cardio. I went home. I got on the computer. I looked up how to get a real estate license, and that is why I got licensed, because I'm like, if I'm going to be buying and selling these homes with my partner, he's making the money on the construction. We're knocking it down. We're underpinning it. We're doing the demolition. His company is, listen, you got to do a company to do it, so why not keep it in his company? I had my realtor, and I'm like, this guy's getting paid 2.5 on the buy.
2.5 on the sale.
I'm like, fuck that. I'm leaving too much money on the table. So I said, I'm going to be a successful real estate investor. I got licensed. And it's turned into a great, I call it my 6-figure side hustle. Yeah. It's easy.
You know, it's amazing that you touched on that as well, because that's the one thing that I've always said as well. It doesn't matter if you make 50,000, you spend 51. If you make 100,000, you spend 101. You make 600,000, you'll spend 601,000. No matter how disciplined you are, we will all do it.
It's lifestyle
creep. And the strangest thing that I always see is that people right now are going to be, even other agents are like, hey, Wayne, you make $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year as an agent. Can you tell me how to do that? Can you tell me how to do it? And of course I'm going to tell you. Like, I only keep what I have by giving it away. The interesting thing is, not one of them asks, hey, man, you know, the market just went up by, 8% last year. So your portfolio just increased by $1 million or 800,000 or 1.2 million. And they don't ask about that. Like, they just ask about the instant gratification as opposed to the whole portfolio. So for me, it comes down to that job. It's always stuck with me. That job, man, you are just over broke. J-O-B. So your job is never going to make you wealthy. Same thing with Michelangelo. You want to be a plastic surgeon? Dude, you're going to make a shit ton of money. But even that is not going to make you truly wealthy. The only thing that will make you truly wealthy is your assets. So start buying assets. Whatever job you have, that's a vehicle to buy more assets. The crazy thing, agents, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year, and you go and talk to these guys. I'm like, holy shit! Like, I was 40 years old, and the most I ever made when I became an agent, the most I ever made at Canada Post was literally $60,000, I think. And like, even at that time, I was able to build close to a $6 million, maybe $7 million portfolio. And I'm like, these guys have had a 20-year head start on me. They've had 10 times the income that I made, and you talk to them and they'd have one other rental property. I'm like, where the fuck is the rest of your money? Like, why do you think so small? And those are the agents that are trying to tell you it's a good investment property. Fucking guy doesn't know anything about investment. If he did, why would he give it to you? He'd buy it himself.
So Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah. Oh, he's huge. Huge.
So I saw him last year
at the family conference.
Multifamily conference, right? Brilliant guy. So people are thinking, why is there a baseball guy here? And
how many apartment buildings?
Last year he had over 20,000 doors.
Yeah. Okay. And he was with Cardoni, right? That's who he grew with?
Well, no, he didn't grow with Cardone.
Seth
Cardone was he's with Seth Ferguson, and then Cardone was the next day.
Yeah.
I know because I was sitting right up front, and actually A-Rod pointed in and goes, "Nice suit you're wearing." So it's cool. I was like,
I love A-Rod,
that's cool.
man.
He's a
Good for
really
him.
cool guy.
Yeah.
But the point is, here's a guy who was in baseball, and he said he was reading a magazine on his way to a game. They had to travel, and he's reading it, and he said that most athletes are broke within 5 years.
For sure they are.
After, so he says, I don't want to do this. So he made a promise to himself that he would buy one condominium or one investment property every single year.
Perfect. That's it.
But it got to a point where he was buying much more than that. And now he's teamed up. He says, I got a Rolodex of billionaires.
Yeah.
I get a listing and something for $700 or $800 million. I make a couple phone calls
And you're done.
and I'm done. I've got the money. So the guy owns over 20. He's probably over 25,000 doors now.
Yeah.
But the exact point is that you're making is invest in assets that are one goes up. It's something you can touch, you can feel, you can walk it.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
It goes over time.
Tangible.
It goes up in value. Okay. And it's going to pay you while you wait.
I agree. But that's the interesting too. And that's I'm not sure if this goes out to a lot of agents, but that's what I tell agents all the time, young agents. I go, and even if they say, well, listen, man, I don't really have a lot of business going on. I'm like, okay, well, go and buy a house. Go and buy a condo. Oh, I can't. Why not? Well, because I can't. I wouldn't get the mortgage. Have you spoken to a mortgage broker? Well, no, not yet. Well, then how do you know that you can't? Like, it's so easy for people to say, I can't. And that gets back to this generation that we were saying, like the younger generation that maybe thinks the cards are stacked against them. Like, you have to ask them. Like, oh, I can't buy a house. Well, why can't you buy a house?
Remove can't and say, how can I?
How can I? That's Robert Kiyosaki.
Turn it from a negative to a positive.
Because your brain shuts
can
off.
I buy this?
Once you
now
say
you
can't,
start opening your mind to all the possibilities.
Do you know how many deals? Because I remember this too. I remember when I got back from Japan, I really wanted to own a nightclub. So there's a nightclub. Remember the nightclub Power Bar?
Yes.
Okay, so I tried to buy that. And I remember I did this whole business plan. I was trying to get financing. I shopped it around. I tried to put the deal together and I failed. I couldn't get it done in the end. But that didn't stop me from trying to buy another nightclub and another nightclub after that. It didn't stop me from going out there and trying to buy apartment buildings. It didn't stop me from going out there and trying to buy houses. Like every time people see, okay, well, you bought and sold 33 houses. That's a lot of houses. Fair, but I probably missed out on 60. Like I've done a lot of deals that haven't gone anywhere, but at least I've tried. So that's why I know my numbers and I can tell right away if something's going to work or something's not. And I'm also willing to say no to something if it starts to get to the point where it doesn't make any sense. But it's interesting that so many people have that defeatist attitude. Same thing, you know what I learned? And again, this is going to be a little bit funny because you're a bodybuilder. So I remember when I was lifting weights in high school. And I remember because I was always really, really tiny, even malnourished. And I remember I'm like, oh my God, if I could just get to 45s, man, that would be amazing. That would be so cool. That's $130. And now at the gym, I incline $185. So it's like a 45 and a 25 aside. And I have to tell you, that's not a terrible amount of weight. But when I incline those 45s for the first time, like you feel accomplished. And I just wish everybody out there could feel that for one day. Like I was on cloud 9. And that was only 130 pounds.
You got the big plates. You got the big plates. I like it. Back in my day, I made sure when I used to do 3 and 4 plates.
Jesus Christ!
But I used to like cling. So people look over. So they look over and they see 1, 2, 3, 4. And then people are stopping and watching.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. And the bar bends.
You got the guy spotting you, right?
But that's the thing, man. Like, and it's amazing. Like, if you have a goal and you get there. Once you get to that goal, like you're going to feel amazing, but then go to the next.
Set new heights.
Go to the next one. And I could tell you, it was so weird. I was probably strong enough to do that because I think you could always lift, you would know better. You can probably always lift your own weight. So if I was 130 pounds in high school, I could probably lift 130 pounds. But it was just so intimidating for me to do that because other people were able to do it and I wasn't sure that I could. And I remember when I finally did it, I even called my buddy, I consider him my brother, and he's in South Africa right now. I'm like, oh my God, Andy, can you believe this? I just inclined 2 plates. Like I inclined, well, plate aside. But I go, can you believe this? He goes, of course you can, man. You could always do that. Oh, even this was even funnier. So military press. Military press is obviously a little bit harder. And I remember, I wasn't really thinking, and military press, I'm usually about 35 aside. So that's like 115 pounds, because I'm not a big guy. But I remember I put the 45s on. And so that's 130 pounds.
135. Yeah.
130,
Bars
135,
45.
45, and then
Yeah.
45 and 90, right? Yeah, so
Yeah.
buck 35, you're right.
Yep.
So I remember when I got that off, I'm like, oh my God, this is really hard. But I did it because the fear came in that I'm like, oh my God, like, and I was able to push buck 35 on military press. And that's pretty impressive for a guy of my size and for my age. And I can tell you, it was weird that you are capable of so much more than you know. And the reason why I was able to do that is because I put myself in an uncomfortable situation that I didn't think I was putting 45s on. But the second I did it, like, your body doesn't let you down. Like, you're capable of so many more things than you really know.
Do you know who Justin Prince is?
No, who's that?
It's a really good guy. I had him on my podcast. Used to follow him. He's
Yeah.
like a life coach. And, one of the things that I think, Matt, you probably remember Justin on here. And one of the things he said is most people, when they hear the lion roar, they run from the roar. They run from the fear. You need to run to the fear, run into the fear.
Okay.
Whatever the fear is, run into it. You got to tackle it.
Yeah.
Because if you keep running from fear, you're not going to accomplish shit.
No, zero. Like, can you imagine some people live their whole life in average house, average car, average experiences, average partner. It's just, I don't know, man. It's the same thing that you're saying. And they've just lived their life scared the whole time.
Do you have a vision board at home?
Of course I do.
I do.
Absolutely.
You know what it
Everybody
is?
does. What?
I have one in my bathroom,
Yeah.
and I have one in my closet. My wife has hers. It's in her bathroom,
Oh.
and I have one in the closet.
Everybody has a vision board.
And I see it every time I go in to get a suit,
Well,
a jacket,
yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
I see my vision board, and after a while, it just becomes ingrained. You
Yeah.
know what you want,
Absolutely.
and so far,
Subconscious.
I've probably got half of what I wanted
Then put more.
on the.
Then you got to put
I got
more.
to redo it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only one thing that we haven't got yet is we're trying for a baby.
Oh, okay. Cool, man. Yeah.
We're trying for a baby.
Do you have the
but
name picked out?
No.
Okay.
I've been told by several people it's going to be a girl.
Yeah.
If we ever had one, it's a girl.
Yeah.
I think that's just,
When you have one.
I think that's just God paying back.
Yeah.
It's payback.
You know what I could say for a second is that I have girls, and every one of my friends have girls. So one of our friends who's since passed, he wrote me a message once, and he said, and I told him, I'm like, hey, Tony, I'm really scared because Rhoda is pregnant, and I'm going to be a father of a girl. And he's like, listen to me right now. The reason why we're all getting girls, it's the universe's way of working out the karma and the damage that we have done to women growing up.
It's karma to me.
Yeah, and I know that, but I can tell you, it is so weird when growing up, I'm like, oh man, I'd like to have a son. But when I had my girls, like, I can't think of anything else. They are the loveliest, nicest, little loving people that you'll ever meet in your life. Number one. Number two, they don't fuck up your garage door with hockey pucks. I can tell you, man. Every time you go to somebody's house to sell, you're
They
like,
just fuck up your carpet with nail polish.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, I don't know if you've seen any of my videos, but yeah, they do my nails.
I've seen
yeah,
this.
yeah, they do all that shit for me. But I'm telling you, man, it's the best thing in the world. And it makes you realize that. And that's what we were saying earlier about success.
Yeah.
So I think there's a difference between wealth and success. Wealth, definition of wealth, how long can you sustain existing lifestyle should your primary source of income expire tomorrow? My definition of success is when my children are grown, do they still come back and visit me? Because if they don't, the watches,
That's good.
the vacations, the cars, the houses, the money, none of that shit matters, man. I got to make sure that my kids come back to visit me, because if they don't, it's going to be a wasted life on my part, man.
I got a couple more questions
Yeah,
because
go.
we're
Is this it? 2 minutes?
Cause,
Sorry, I talk a lot, man.
No,
I
because
told
you
you.
know what? Honestly, I think this is the longest podcast
Oh,
we've done,
shoot.
but
Sorry, man.
it's flowing really so
Yeah,
good.
sorry.
I usually keep it around an hour.
Yeah.
We're at like an hour and 40 minutes, but it's going so well.
I told you, you have to focus, Steve. Where the fuck was Matt on this, dude?
I know.
Sleeping
I think
back
my
there, dude.
technician Matty, I think he's enjoying it just as much.
Yeah, you're sleeping back there, right? Yeah,
So,
okay, go.
so the housing market,
Yeah.
I'm constantly getting I was with a client
Yep.
this morning. We're sitting down and we're writing a large life insurance policy for him because he's got several properties. And he says, hey, I'm thinking about maybe getting rid of one of them. What do you think? And I said, not now.
Why? Yeah, why would
I go,
you get
it's
rid of it?
it's a buyer's market. It's not a seller's market.
Yes.
And he says, where do you
Love
think
it.
the houses market is going to go up? I said, well, I think in the next year, the interest rates are going to drop. And when
will.
they do start to drop, you're going to start to see more people that are sitting on the sidelines that are going to get, and you're going to start to see that switch,
Yeah, you will.
that balance going from a buyer's market to a seller's market. And you're going to start to get into that multiple offer again. So if you're thinking of selling, don't do it now. Wait.
No.
But why? The thing's just going to go up in value. So my question to you is, Where do you see the housing market in the next couple of years going?
So first of all, Maddie, did you notice that when he talked about the housing market? Did you hear what he said? There was something really important that he said.
For the current housing market?
Yeah, did you hear what he said? How did he describe
It
it?
might have slipped me right now.
Okay, so how would you describe it? He didn't say good or bad.
No.
He said it's a buyer's market.
Mhm.
You notice that? That's a strong mindset. Because I hear that all the time. Oh man, the market's shit. Dude, there's no such thing as a bad
It's
market.
shit to who? It's shit
There's
to the
a
sellers.
buyer's market or a seller's market.
It's
That's
not
it.
good for
That's all
sellers,
it
right? It's
is.
great for
Yeah.
buyers, right?
100%. So I love the fact that you touched on. That's why I know we're on the same
Yeah.
wavelength. As soon as you heard that, I'm like, oh man, this guy would be my agent if I wasn't an agent myself. I like this guy. But where do I see it going? Again, I see a ton of opportunity right now, especially if you're looking in the assignment space. Like a lot of people, if you don't have the capital for a down payment, I don't know, Maddie, do you?
I know a little bit. But
Okay.
yeah.
You don't even need it right now because if you talk to Sahar, she's going to have access to a lot of assignments. And I'm telling you, a lot of people that bought these assignments don't have the wherewithal to close on them. They're walking away from their deposits. So if you buy that assignment, you're going to absorb their deposits. So that's going to act as your down payment. So I think there is amazing opportunity out there for the condo market and assignment markets. As for houses, the houses are always strong. It's a little bit softer right now, but for your guy, especially because he's not buying and selling in the same market. If you're buying a house or selling a house to buy a house, the market doesn't matter because you're buying good and you're selling good, or you're buying bad and you're selling bad. Your guy, if he can wait, why would he try to sell now?
Yeah.
Wait until the interest rates drop. Remember, as people don't give a shit about how much a house costs, they just care if they can afford the monthly payments. That's all they care about. So as interest rates lower, affordability goes up and consequently pricing and demand.
I think if you got some money right now, I think if you're out there and you got a bit of money,
Yep.
buy something now because there's
100%.
there's a lot of inventory out there. Ton of inventory, and sellers are willing to negotiate.
They are. Yes,
right?
you're right.
So yes, you might pay a bit of a higher interest rate right
Who cares?
now,
But you're paying a lower price.
but again, you said it. You said something.
Which way?
You said you make the money on the buy.
You do, exactly.
Not on the sell. So if you could get a house that in 2 years from now that might be worth $2 million and you can get it for 1.6,
Yeah, that's 400 grand you make.
go get it.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. Remember, we comes back to that whole thing that we were talking about earlier, is that you do the opposite of everybody else.
Yeah.
So right now, if there's a lot of listings, like I think right now we have 21,000 listings, and typically we move in between 10 and 12,000
And
units. per year.
70% of those are condos.
Yeah, and that's a little bit dicey. So I could tell you, do the opposite of everyone else. Everybody's selling their condo. So what should you do with your condo? Buy. So if everyone's selling, you buy. Everyone's buying, you sell. Do the opposite. You'll always make money. Do you ever play poker?
Lots of poker.
Oh yeah, you do, right? I remember we were talking about it. But so right now,
A lot
if
of
the
poker.
table's tight, what do? You play loose.
I play loose.
Okay, if the table's loose, what do?
I'm tightening up.
There you go. It's the same thing. It's the same concept. That's why I don't understand why people are so intimidated by investing in real estate or investing in anything. It's the easiest thing to do. Don't fucking overcomplicate it. You know who's going to complicate it? The people you pay well. Your financial advisor, your lawyer, and your accountant. Let them do the complicated stuff. You just go with the basics. Am I buying low and selling high? Yes. Okay, it makes sense then. Am I doing the opposite of everyone else? Yes. Then it makes sense. Stop making it difficult, man. I have a grade 10 education. I'm rich as shit. Like, it's not that hard to do.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. One more question.
Yeah, go.
If you had to go back to your younger self,
Yep.
what advice would you give him?
So number one, I would be don't have any limited beliefs. Be very careful with who you hang out with. Because again, we were saying, you hang out with 5 drug dealers, you're going to be the 6th. You hang out with 5 guys that lift weights, you're going to be the 6th. You hang out with 5 people that are successful, you will be the 6th. The other thing, don't be afraid to fail. Because again, there's either you win or you learn. And then this one might sound a little controversial because obviously I'm an agent. I make money when you buy and sell. Don't sell. Hold on. Hold on as
Warren
long
Buffett
as
doesn't
possible.
sell.
Yeah, why should
Buffett
you?
doesn't sell anything.
Yeah, why should you? Hold on to it. And
Buy and hold.
talk to someone, buy and hold, and borrow out. So even your guy right now, like, does he want to exit the market? Like, is he getting to the retirement part where he just
Oh, no, he's 46 years old.
then why wouldn't he just borrow
That's what I
money
said.
against? Take money out, man.
Yeah,
take
refund.
money out, write it off, and use the money for free, man. That's what I would do. Remember, it's that whole thing too. Is you want to make money, then always remember these 3 letters: OPM, opium.
Other people's money.
People's money. You
That's
got
it,
it, brother.
that's it.
I think we've read the same books, right? Like, it's crazy.
Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
There you go, man. Yeah, yeah. But isn't it amazing? Just by probably what you've read, you've probably learned probably 20% of your knowledge is what you've read. 20% of the knowledge that you've got is from who you absorb, what you absorb by being with people. But that 60%, man, it's just going and fucking doing it. Just do it. Who cares? Just do it. Fail. Try. Who cares? It's not an end. Failure is a beginning, not an end.
Any current books you're reading right now?
Other than this one, still on Wall Street. And actually, you know what's a really great one, by the way? I love the name Michelangelo. I'm really reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Okay. Have you read it?
No.
So Marcus Aurelius, his Meditations, this was taken from him, obviously 2,000 years ago, 1,900 years ago. And he had someone follow him around. And when they followed him around, his only job as a servant was to keep whispering in his ear, "You're only a man. You're only a man. You're only a man." So that made sure that he stayed humble, and he wrote down everything that he was thinking. And it's called stoicism. So if I get angry at you because of something that you've done, you win. Because right now you're my master.
Well, you've given me the power.
You have all my power. If I hate you, you are my master because you change how I feel about myself. And you know, it's these little things, and it's amazing because the more that you grow, the more that you're around people, the more you become successful. You learn these things. Like, it's funny. I remember my father, because I think about him a lot. And he told me one time, you never let somebody else change you. Because if somebody does something to you, they screw you over, or you get in a bad deal and you lose money. If you stop investing because of that, that guy won and you lost. So I'll tell you right now, picture this. Fairview Mall. You grew up in Scarborough, right?
Yeah, I know Fairview.
Okay.
Had my Mustang stolen from there at a movie theater.
Maybe it was one of my buddies. Can you please return it? Anyways, no, I'm fucking with you. But imagine Christmas Eve, Fairview Mall used to be rammed.
Yeah.
And imagine you're walking out of there with packages. You got a bunch of packages and you got the McDonald's in your hand. And then the guy in front of you goes through the door, doesn't hold the door, comes back and slams on you. You drop your pop, you drop your McDonald's all over the ground. That's ruined and you have to pick up the gifts. Of course you're going to be frustrated. Now, 2 days later, now it's Boxing Day, and you are in that mall, and as you're leaving, you see someone behind you holding a Coke, hands full of presents. Do you will still hold the door open for them?
100%.
Exactly. You won. If you said, no, I'm not going to hold the door open for you because someone didn't hold it open for me, that guy just beat you.
Why should I let some piece of shit
Piece of shit. Exactly.
change me?
But that's the whole point.
No, I hold the door.
But that's that whole mentality. I'm telling you. So as much as the kids today think that they have the chips stacked against them, they don't. It's all your mentality, man. If you think chips are stacked against you, then they are.
Yeah.
If you think it's hard, it is. If you think people are trash, they are. If you think people are great, they are. If you think that this world is full of love, it is. If you think that money is very easy to get, it is. It's all about the way that you think. Wow,
and so for my listeners, where can they find you? I know you're really big on social media.
Yeah, I love it.
Where can they find you?
So I have a profile on Bumble. So that's and on that, I'll tell you, I do identify as a 6 foot tall man because I'm allowed to do that. I identify as 6 feet tall. I'm allowed to. I hope that doesn't offend anyone, by the way. No, it's Wayne _ real estate. And then it's Wayne at wayneskinner.ca. And then 416-402-3735. See ya.
Amazing. This has been really great.
Yeah, man, it's awesome.
This has been great. It's been the longest podcast we had because there's a lot of talk about it. It was a combination of a Steve Harvey Wealth Eazy show.
Yeah, that's what I told you, Maddie. What are you doing over there? You're sleeping. I told you. You got to do the Joe Biden shut off the mic. And I just shut up. Yeah. Or just the music at the Grammys to wrap it up. You got to
flash the red light over there.
Yeah, like a stand-up comics. Yeah, flash the red light. Man.
Yes, well, this
awesome.
This has been great, guys. My book, Wealth Without Wall Street, Taking Back Control of Your Money and Rigged Financial System, is out. It's on Amazon. It's in Barnes & Noble, and it's in Chapters in Indigo. Get a copy. Some really great reviews by Kirkus and Claren, and everyone I've talked to is giving really great reviews on it. That's all for today. If you like this show, please share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel so you get notified every time there's a new video or podcast. That's all for today. Take care of your wealth and your health.